I know you're tired of hearing everyone say Ultron is awful, Ultron is F tier, Ultron will only work in a 3 strategist comp. Well, I am here to tell you 10 tips to play Ultron better. I personally have enjoyed playing him a ton as an off healer who can deal damage at just the right time, provide great sustain for your team, and can have a very impactful ultimate. First of all, your heals are not bursty, but you still have a ton of constant healing output and will likely have more damage and healing than other strategists. You should always have your E on the lowest person in the group, and make sure to swap those heals when a specific person is getting torched or maybe about to engage. Your biggest strength when it comes to your heals is that it is a constant rate of healing. This is a group sustain heal. Think of it as like a mini rocket that just stays on your team the whole time. And speaking of your heal, you always need to keep line of sight as much as possible, because breaking line of sight will stop your heals. This is probably the most difficult or annoying part about Ultron so far. You'll see your little indicator flash yellow before turning red and disappearing. I frequently found myself getting distracted and the person I had a drone on maybe ran away or died and reset the drone without me noticing. So just be sure to pay extra attention to your line of sight. For number 3, he doesn't have self-healing. Maybe this is obvious, but you should use your drone to swap to someone close to you to quickly get heals for yourself. Otherwise, you're just a sitting duck, especially if you're up in the air. You can use your shift to quickly get to someone on your team to give you that AoE heal as well. Speaking of flying, Ultron is the only healer who doesn't have to look up to heal flyers, so use that to your team comp's advantage and position yourself with flyers to give them shields. I wouldn't necessarily recommend always being all the way up in the air, because sometimes it's good to play down low with your team, kind of like a storm does, but if you play kind of up and behind the flyers where you can keep your drone on the tank on the ground and give shields to the players in the air, then you're effectively shielding your entire team, and you can swap your drone to the flyers when they need healing, and I found that to be pretty effective so far. Tip number 5 is to spam that shield. It's not a massive shield by any means, but everyone in your radius and your drone's radius gets it, and it can soak damage when constantly used. Most of the time, you don't need to be holding it for some certain moment. You'll get more value out of it using it consistently. However, yes, if needed, you can make sure to use it at the same time as placing your healing drone on someone who is low to get a decent amount of healing or a bit of a buffer on their health bar. Ultron is able to give your entire team a shield consistently if you are positioned well. And then as far as his primary attack goes, you do burst damage, so make sure that you are hitting the end of your shots. I really like his attacks because it felt like I could pre-aim them a little bit with the laser before the burst hits. You could also pre-charge your attack for a surprise burst, kind of hiding behind cover or a corner and then popping out for that last second. You could also hide behind tanks and shoot directly through them, which is super useful, and there is a damage fall off for the range, but the range is still great. So you can use that to take out things like penny mines, rocket beacons, and Loki lanterns from far away. So far, people have been comparing Ultron to Adam Warlock a lot, mostly because of his ability to do damage and poke the team, and Adam does have more DPS than Ultron, but for me personally, Ultron felt better and easier to use. I find myself missing a lot of Adam Warlock shots, but I felt like I was able to more consistently do damage and poke down their squishies, especially with the angles that you could get with Ultron. Now, because of that, the next tip is to always play for poke. You build your ult extremely fast, and your primary is good. Your ult cost is 3,400 compared to Luna Snow's 5,000. So if your bot is always on the group healing them, if you're poking the enemies, if you're spamming your shields, you can get ult pretty fast. And speaking of your ultimate, it has the most healing per second in the game, so use that to your advantage. Gaming Merchant actually calculated this himself, and it does 500 healing per second for 8 seconds, compared to Cloak and Dagger's ult doing 250 healing per second for 13 seconds, Invisible Woman doing 165 healing per second for 8 seconds, and Luna Snow's ult healing 250 health per second for 12 seconds. Granted, yes, all of these have their own strengths and benefits. It's not just about the healing per second. Clearly, Luna Snow is permabanned for a reason. Her ult is insane. But just comparing that base healing, you can enable someone with Ultron to be pretty much unkillable in a fight. It does take a bit to activate it though, so make sure you don't wait too long to use it. This isn't an instant save like Cloak and Dagger or Invisible Woman, and it's even slower to activate than Luna. But if you focus your attacks on whoever has people on them, you can save them from most things in the game, as well as dish out some AoE damage or surprise a backline healer with a couple of shots. It doesn't do a ton of damage, so definitely don't use this like a DPS ult, but its healing is super impressive. On top of all of that, you can use your movement ability to your advantage when ulting. You can time some pretty cool things since you can activate your shift during the startup animation or anytime during the ult. So use that to pop up around the corner or reposition quickly during a fight for burst heals or damage. Your ult shoots 5 shots at a time, which each heal a lot, so spread out the shots for maximum coverage if you can afford to. Of course, don't take your ult off of someone who desperately needs it in the middle of a fight, but the fact that it's 5 separate shots allows you to flick away from someone for a single shot to help out another member of your team. Or if you happen to see an enemy really low, you can flick up to them to deal a little bit of damage. Number 9 is pretty simple. Have an Iron Man on your team. His team up makes Ultron much more viable as a second healer. It gives him more regular burst healing, especially when paired with his drone and his shields. The attack is really good to just shoot through an entire fight because you can deal some damage to the enemies as well as healing everyone you're shooting through. But definitely don't use it to deal damage because it's not Iron Man. You're likely going to die if you're just trying to 1v1 someone with this, so don't just fly up to another flyer like Storm or Human Torch and think you can pull it off. You should use your shift when needed to reposition or to get away from a fight or someone diving you. I like to try to stay away from danger and out of reach of the divers honestly most of the time, so I'll sit back and above the other healers or with the flyers while the heal bot does its thing and you are poking at the team. Especially when your shift isn't up, you should be playing super careful, kind of like Invisible Woman with her jump, except she also has her push that can kite enemies. But you don't have something like that, so always keep in mind that if you can't move and get away, you're going to die very quickly. Overall, I could see with the amount of complaining that streamers are doing about him, maybe leading to Ultron getting buffed, though I'm afraid it's going to be like the Human Torch situation where the buffs are just going to immediately tip him over the edge into being incredibly strong. I personally have liked where Ultron is at in his kit a lot because it feels very different comparing it to the other strategists, and it emphasizes that they aren't really trying to just make this a healing only role. It is a strategist role. I don't really want another Luna or Invisible Woman with similar healing outputs and abilities. I'd much rather have a wide array of heroes with different gameplay loops like this instead of all the same hero with different names. But anyways, those are my 10 tips for playing Ultron. Hopefully this helps someone. Like I said, I really enjoyed playing him and definitely think he's going to be my next Lord personally. But until next time, this is Rivals Assembled, and I will catch you later.